You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the March 5th meeting of the Michigan City Tree Board. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Okay, it is 5:31. Let's call to order. Welcome, everyone. Let's go ahead and start with approval of the agenda for today. Everyone should have received that.
I move to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Okay.
Oh, I need to write that down. Sorry.
Thank you. And roll call.
Okay, Jen Birchfield, are you here?
Present.
Dennis is absent. Dominique, absent at this point. Betsy?
Here.
Laura Henderson?
I'm here.
Jim Mellowitz?
Here.
Mary Nell Murphy is here.
Hi, Tim.
Oh, hello.
Hi, Tim.
The public has arrived.
We have a member of the public here.
Dr. Kaur is unable to attend tonight, and Nancy Moldenhauer, wonderful. I think first meeting, because I missed the last one, as our new city council liaison. Welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm going to pass this around and ask for signatures, and then please get it back to me.
How are you?
Hey, how you doing, Tim?
Okay.
Okay, next up is approval of minutes for January 8th, 2025 meeting, as well as the February 5th, 2025 meeting.
And the reason for that is I was not sworn in at that meeting, so we did not have a quorum.
Okay.
I am now sworn in.
Okay. Has everyone received those minutes and any discussion of those minutes?
I think the February minutes, do they have me being present for that meeting?
I don't think so.
I was not here for that,
I know.
unless I confused it with the January minutes.
No, they show you as absent. Yeah,
Okay, then,
I also was absent. So I probably will not move that we accept those since I was absent.
I wrote them, so I won't move.
Could we move to accept those with those adjustments? I don't know.
Well,
No, that's not an adjustment. He was just checking if he was under absent,
Okay.
and he is.
Okay.
Yeah. Betsy, are you okay to move that we accept the
So moved.
February minutes?
So moved.
And Jim, did you want to second that? Oh, you were
I can
absent as
second it, but
well.
I wasn't
guess-
here. I'm not going to vote
Can
on
I
that.
second it?
Sure you
Yes.
can.
I wrote it. I second it.
Okay.
So that's for
Oh.
February.
Vote.
All-
Need a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
And I'll abstain, because I wasn't here.
And an abstention from Jim.
Okay.
Pass that back.
Thanks, guys, bearing with me as I'm learning my new role.
And we then do need to do the January minutes as well then.
Okay.
Yeah. And I move that we accept the January minutes.
I
Second.
second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Dominique is here.
right.
Yay, Dominique, she gets
Welcome.
a chance to vote on the minutes. She wants to.
Dominique, we just voted on the minutes for January and February.
Oh, I was gonna definitely vote for it if it was like, we're getting like $1 million.
Well, we'll see.
Well, I'll pass these over for your signature. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Secretary Treasurer's report and claims. There's a note that there's no change since last month's report.
That's true.
Do we need any discussion of that? No? Okay, no change. Communications. We should discuss that the spring planting is being canceled. Michael did provide that in his Forester's monthly report. I am serving sort of as the liaison on the grant.
Okay.
My understanding is that I don't think it's a big secret that there is some federal uncertainty.
Correct.
I don't know the exact details, and I can't speak to those on behalf of the city. However, my understanding is that Michael is trying to proceed, but there is some uncertainty around reimbursement of federal funds. So at the moment, the spring order of trees to be planted by SCA is paused. My understanding is that Michael is still trying to work with SCA and the city. Yes, please.
Okay, he sent an email in response to asking him, and he said, reason for concealing, I think he meant canceling the spring planting, is the city legal department has decided not to do anything in reference to the grant until such time as we hear something official from the federal government stating they are not going to, he probably means rescind our grant, and the mayor instructed me to move the date. So that's what he said.
Yeah. So, any discussion on that topic?
So the mayor's office made the decision, or the mayor made the decision not
Yeah.
to go forward, fearing that the city would be left with the bill without
It
being
appears that way.
reimbursed. Do they have any timetable for when, well, I guess they don't,
No.
for when they might get an answer from the feds? I mean, I think that, you know, the thing that strikes me about this is we, or somebody, or the mayor's office, this is as Ara Parsegian, the second greatest coach in Notre Dame football history, would have said, this is a teaching moment for the public to educate the public about the consequences of the election. And this is one of the consequences, that 1,500 trees that were going to be planted in Michigan City under this program with this federal grant now are in jeopardy. And that entire planting program, we have already invested in a tree inventory as the first step of this, which I guess we're going to hear more about. But that the entire rest of the program is in jeopardy, which is critical to improving the environment and the health of the citizens of Michigan City. And I think that we need to let the public know that is a consequence of what's happening here. You know, whether it's up to us to put something out or whether it's up to the mayor's office to put something out, it's probably really up to the mayor's office, I would think, since it's her call on this thing, which they, but I don't know, Tim, what do you, we have a member of the public here, Tim Werner, our former board president. Do you have any suggestion on that?
My suggestion would be to write a letter to the mayor's office with all of that information in it, and she will probably post that letter on the city's Facebook page so that all citizens have access to that. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, because I mean, has anybody seen anything about this in the newspaper or any blog that covers the city or any kind of news source?
I think the mayor has had things like that posted on Facebook. We received last fall a Safe Streets for All grant that I was just about to attend 2 weeks ago on Monday morning, the kickoff meeting for that. I got a call a few minutes before the meeting that all meetings for the Federal Highway Administration Safe Streets for All program have been canceled. That's the limit of it. I've not heard anything back since.
Yeah.
I said this is canceled permanently. I sent an email back and they said, no, but we don't know when it'll start again. Same as the Forest Service tree grant.
I will say, as part of my day job at NERC, we have several grants that there's just a lot of uncertainty, and I understand the hesitancy
Sure, of course.
of an organization to expend $30,000 on trees.
You don't, you gotta get reimbursed.
I have been speaking with Michael as kind of being the liaison on the grant from the tree board. To kind of speak with the city and see if there is an option for a request for an advance reimbursement, which is what we are pursuing at NERC. That is not a common avenue. Usually you get reimbursed retroactively, but I think in this situation it's worth considering. Things are just very uncertain right now.
Well, it's such a shame not to be able to pursue the program. And if we're not going to pursue the program, then I think we need to make a bigger issue about it and let the public know what's happening. There are consequences to elections. This is one of the consequences.
I think that's an excellent suggestion to write a letter. Did you want to do that?
I can do that.
Okay. That sounds
I'll write it, I'll send it to Jen, take a look at it, let me know, and then I'll send it to the mayor. And it'll basically be saying what we've just talked about.
If you would like to send it to me as a city engineer and to Mike Wolf, the forester, to look at too before it goes to the mayor's office.
Good idea.
We might have some minor tweaks to do that would make it more palatable to everyone.
You just can't bear to not be involved in tree board business.
I appreciate that very much.
And I'm sort of in the same position at my day job at NERC. I'll update later on the community program, which has an application from Michigan City Tree Board. But I'm sort of in the same position where I'm preparing to send out a communication stating there's a lot, we're still trying to order these trees.
So
We're trying.
Is Community also not going to go forward as well, or
We are trying to go forward.
you're trying to get
I have
up in the air?
I have more or less been instructed to try to seek advance reimbursement, and then I can order the trees. So I'm still trying. We'll see.
Okay. I'll write the letter, I'll send it to everybody, give me your 2 cents, and then we'll get it out. Okay? Try to make some noise.
I
Thank you.
wonder if we should write letters to the editors, things like that.
Let's start with this letter, and as things unfold over the next few months, maybe we could follow that up with letters to other people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we need to raise, raise the profile of the issue.
I'd also recommend maybe some type of organization around outreach and engagement techniques for the public, because I know that like a lot of this is very heavy. We see a lot of rapid fire things that are happening in the news. So in order to maybe decrease some of that conflict that might come from the public, because I think once certain things hit the media, that encourages a more reactionary response. So if a lot of our, residents didn't even know that this funding existed, once it hits the media and once it hits the public airwaves, that's going to cause probably a really unnecessary chain reaction for the mayor's office. So I'm just wondering if there's some other ways that we might be able to kind of utilize our skills and kind of pull some things together in regards to what appropriate engagement and education looks like. So yes, this is what's happening, and kind of take it almost like step by step for the public, so that folks have some time to kind of process what is happening. I know as somebody who also kind of works in the same space as Jennifer that like a lot of these things are kind of like racking our brains over the coals on a daily basis or almost by the hour at this point. So if it's hard for us as professionals to kind of, make palatable, like Tim said, what's happening in the current sphere, I can't imagine how some of our residents might feel. So it's not so much as making things kind of cushy, right, or spinning or putting a toxic kind of positivity spin on it, but just making sure that folks are aware, so raising some awareness, but also making sure that folks are educated and engaged in the process too.
And that's a good point, because we were just about to start ramping up our community engagement around the plan and the inventory. I think we can still do some of that because we had agreed as a tree board that we would assist with that, and that shouldn't involve a major expenditure. But I think we just, like you said, Dominique, need to maybe be a little more thoughtful about how we go about that, given the context. We don't want to tell people we're going to plant 1,500 trees if we are not. I'm optimistic that at the end of the day, we will be able to. I'm not sure that we can do it this spring.
Yeah, and I think that's just, I'm sorry, Nancy. I was going to say.
No, that's okay. Finish up.
And I was going to say, and I think that that's just going to create more of a headache, I think, for the tree board and the mayor's office. And then there's going to be like an unnecessary back and forth that we're all fielding.
It's a good point.
And so I definitely offer space to the tree board to come to the Walker Street Park Community Garden. We have a full packed programming schedule, and a lot of people tend to turn out for some of our events. So definitely use that as another means of engaging and connecting with the community on this topic in a community space that we say, everyone of all walks of life are welcome. So no pun intended. So, but just giving that option as well.
Nancy?
I just would have a suggestion, if you're putting together a formal letter for the mayor, you may want to consider crafting that and sending that to the 2 U.S. senators and also Representative Frank Mervan to let them know that this community program is paused because of the uncertainty regarding funds being released. I'm trying to encourage people to communicate with their elected officials so that they are aware of the ripple effect that this is having.
Thank you. Being new to the presidency, do we need to take a vote on whether we would like to prepare such a letter? Or
Couldn't hurt, we're just in the drafting stage at this point, but it sounds like the board has the support of the board, and I think that's not a bad idea.
okay,
I move that we take Jim up on his offer to draft a letter discussing the impact of having to postpone our spring planting. And Jim, it sounds like you're going to then send that on to maybe all the board, or at least Jen and Tim and Michael for feedback before we send that on to the mayor.
yep,
I second.
I would suggest, yes, that
Have
we
to write that down.
include Michael.
She said,
I did say
Yes,
Michael.
yes,
Good.
okay.
Yeah.
Just to make sure, because he's kind of more involved in the conversations that have been happening, so to get that
Sure.
perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we have a second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, so moved.
President Birchfield, if I may,
Yes?
I can certainly withhold this to the end of the agenda where they have public comment, or as your forestry
Go for it.
consultant, I do have some things I'd like to add to this
Yes.
conversation if
Please.
you'd allow me to.
Mhm.
In addition to whomever writes this letter, I think Vice President Melwood says it.
Excuse me, would you introduce yourself
Oh.
to the public, please?
Phil Greff from Great Lakes Urban Forestry. I'm a forestry consultant for City Forester Michael Wolf and the tree board. For whomever writes the letter, I think there's a few other things that we would be remiss if we didn't mention, because you didn't mention the tree planting, the 1,500 tree planting. But as a result of the tree inventory, which we're going to be discussing tonight, we also have, what's also budgeted in that IRA funding is the removal of a lot of aging and potentially high-risk trees, the pruning of a lot of potential high-risk trees. I think we should also mention that we have a workforce development program going on here that's funded through the grant. For those of you who were at last month's meeting, I think you would agree we have a pretty remarkable story going there. That I'm also curious to if that's where that stands. If
Yeah, me
the
too.
mayor and the legal counsel of the city is now saying that, we have to have a stop work order on the IRA funded projects, where does that leave Baya? So I think that should definitely be mentioned, because we're dealing with people's lives at this point.
Right.
And not to mention the completion of my project. We're at the tail end of it. Perhaps we got lucky. I have $3,000 some odd dollars left to bill after this. We have got the second installment of the Urban Forestry Management Plan and the canopy cover LiDAR analysis to do yet, which I would anticipate invoicing that probably sometime around April 1st, about a month from now. But I'm just letting you guys know, if it comes to it, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to finish it. I mean, if we don't get paid, we don't get paid. It's a $69,000 project. I'm not going to get this far into it and not finish off what you guys need to have this project under completion. Hopefully we just get lucky. I did submit my last invoice at the end of last week, because we invoice at the end of every month. So we're just down to the very tail end of it, and I'll discuss what we have left when we get to talking about here. But I just want to make sure that gets mentioned too, that we're not just focusing on just the tree planting, because there's so many other things. The trees that need to be removed, the trees that need to be pruned are, again, I can't stress this enough.
And how many of
potential
those,
hazardous
how many
trees.
trees are there that need to be pruned or removed?
We'll get to it, the
Yeah.
exact numbers. It's in the 400s for removal.
Will you be sending this out to everybody on the board?
I certainly can, yeah, I can get this,
So
this
we
is the
can
first
see,
time we're
I
gonna
can
see
see
it
the
tonight.
numbers.
So you got numbers to put in that letter.
You know,
But
it is ironic that in the past, the city has had tree inventories done. There's been at least 2 prior tree inventories that I know of. But there was no money to plant trees after the inventories. Here we are in a similar situation potentially.
I know.
Moral of the story, plant the trees first and then do the inventory maybe, huh?
I'm optimistic that we can still plant the trees. Cautiously optimistic. I understand the need for caution.
Right.
But-
Nothing's been canceled. I've heard a lot of language from other clients of mine that they're waiting for the funding they're waiting for the funding to get reinstated, which that's not correct, because nothing has officially been canceled, okay? It was a threat back on February 3rd, that it was supposed to be canceled as of 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, February 4th. At which time, at 10 minutes to 5 Eastern, a federal judge blocked that, and the next day the administration said, we're not going to move at all towards rescinding any of the IRA grant money. And that's the last I've heard of officially. So what I've been hearing through several pass-through agencies, one of which is not yours, like I think we need to talk to Drew Hart from the USDA Forest Service, because that's your pass-through entity and Drew is your contact person, because I haven't heard anything from that agency, but the other agencies that I'm working with are all basically saying proceed with caution, make sure that you are paying your contractors, and then immediately after you do that, submit for reimbursement, because at that February 3rd, when it was first threatened that they were going to do that, I work with a pass-through agency called Corpse Med out of Washington, D.C., and another municipality that they work with. And I called them, they actually picked up the phone, I was shocked. And they said that the memo they got was to make sure everybody knew, all the grantees knew to get their reimbursement in by February 11th, which would have been 1 week from the day it stopped. It was their grace period to make sure that they would get reimbursed. That no disbursements would be given after February 11th. So, likely we would see a grace period, but there's no guarantees, right? So I think the difference between, smaller projects versus a $30,000 tree planting is you could get halfway through it and not be able to meet that grace period. So I totally understand why Mike is, and the legal counsel is saying to hold off on that because that's a pretty big project. But, the grant's paying for Bea's wages. I don't know if it's bi-weekly payroll here at the city or how that works, but I certainly hope that that program doesn't come to a screeching halt or she doesn't get laid off.
Me
Just
too.
to keep- I would make sure we reimburse every time on
Yeah,
that.
my communications with Michael have been, he doesn't seem too concerned about Bea. I believe they have not received any direct communication from the granting agency to cease work, but I do understand the caution. I'm optimistic in the long term, but I think we're just gonna have to get through this spring. And I have had conversations with Michael, just encouraging Michael to, and I believe he is, to submit those reimbursement requests as frequently as he can.
As soon as you get them.
I've also been in conversations with Michael, just sharing that in my day job at NERC, we are taking the approach of requesting an advance reimbursement, which is an option through our grant program. So if that is an avenue to explore, like I said, it's not common to do that, but it's in our contract language that we can. So that is the avenue that we're exploring. And if Michigan City has that option through their contract, I think it would be wise to explore that as well, because if you can get that advance payment then you can have that confidence to expend the funds.
Well, I spoke to Michael yesterday morning, and at that time, he was planning to meet with Drew Hart
Okay.
this morning. But I don't know if that meeting happened.
Okay. I'm not sure. I have been in conversations with Drew because he is also the grant contact for NERPC's grant. And I will say he's working with us to try to get the advance approval through. So I don't know if that meeting happened or not, but I can inquire.
Okay, I'm just noting that that's item 6 on communications, so
Okay,
So we're-
lots of communication.
just bringing us back to the agenda.
Thank you. Okay, I think we can move on. I don't know that any, oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to mention a second item under
Yes,
communications.
yes, please.
If it's okay to mention at this time, and that's the information you had sent on to me on NERPC, on the invasive plant.
Yes.
Is that okay if I mention that?
Yes,
at this
please.
point? Okay.
Please.
So thank you very much for sending that. Some of you may have seen it on the Friends of Michigan City Tree Board Facebook page this afternoon or yesterday, whatever. But it's wonderful. I have pulled it up here. So NERPC is has a program where you can receive a native plant if you are getting rid of one of two species, either
Calorie pear?
the calorie pear, and Jim,
Or
you may have heard
tree
of
of-
this tree before.
Heard of
It's
tree
called
of heaven?
The tree of
H.E.
heaven, yeah.
Yes, members of the public should be aware that if they have a tree of heaven, a terrible, terrible, notorious invasive species of tree, or a Callaway pear.
Calorie pear, yeah.
Callaway pear, is it Callaway?
Calorie.
Calorie pear, that they can cut them down, and this program will provide them with a free tree.
Native
that is
tree, that's
a
a native
native
tree.
tree
That's
to
great.
replace.
You have to have some kind of proof that you did
Right.
remove this.
And the details for this program are on our Facebook page,
Right, that's right.
that you can
And
check
there's
it
a
out.
form.
Through the soil and water conservation?
Say it again?
Is that through the soil and water conservation?
This is through NERPC.
Right through
With,
NERPC?
in partnership with Indiana Department of Natural Resources,
Okay.
Community Urban Forestry. They are doing this through a grant. Yes.
You mentioned you need proof. What kind of proof? A photo of it there?
I think
A photo of the
before and
hole
after
after you take it
photos.
out, or you just need to
I
drag a tree
I
over
would
to it?
check with NERPC or
Before-
Jen.
A before
Find
photo
out
and an
exactly.
after photo.
And I will say there's details on, the page, and there's a form, to fill out, and the details are on the Facebook page to look into.
Thank you.
Okay, and that was my second item on communications. and I am
Pursuant to
done.
the new
Thank you.
permitting law in Michigan City, a picture of that tree before and after will already be on file with the city forester's office, right?
Should be.
Yeah, okay.
If it's on public property.
Yeah, I think,
It's not private property.
anyway, the details are on the page and on the form that you fill out. And that's an excellent program that I hope the public will take advantage of.
Tree of Heaven, we've got you in our sights.
Yes.
Going down.
As well as calorie pear. I believe there is also a option to select other. So
Oh, I didn't see that.
So if you do have an other, you can propose that. I think those are the two that DNR wants to target. But I would really appreciate help sharing the word about that program.
Yeah, good. Yeah, if everyone can put it on their own
Well,
pages or distribute.
We can make some flyers and distribute them at the garden show.
Well, I think it has to be in by April 11th or something
April
like
10th.
that.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
But that'll give them,
Oh,
Over a
I'm
week.
sorry. I'm thinking of
Yeah.
the Earth Day extravaganza.
it's
But
like March 29th.
what is the date of that?
Well,
March
when I'm
29th?
called upon, I'll give you the details.
March 29th.
Okay, so I'm done with that item.
Okay. Anything else under communication? Okay. Hearing none. Committee reports, public relations. Any reports out on public relations?
kind of at a standstill. I don't know what to
Well,
say.
we were gonna,
You'll start that at the farmer's markets.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was supposed to talk with Nancy about setting up a green drinks thing with somebody from the tree board to talk about the 1,500 trees we were going to be planting, but that seems to be a moot point for the moment, so we'll just
And
hold
I
off
believe,
on that.
Nancy, we have that scheduled
For April.
for April.
We do.
Yeah.
So we should talk about what we would like to discuss at that, if that's still going to happen. And how we will message that. I think the plan was to talk about going forward, but I think at the very least, we could talk about the inventory work that's already been done
Yeah, excellent.
and the planning work.
And where we're at, that we are on hold and why.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay,
very good.
okay. Education and outreach.
Okay.
We do have noted here, LaPorte Master Gardener Show.
That's my area of interest. I was made aware of this Master Gardener show at the Michigan City High School, March 29th. Since the last meeting, I didn't know about it till I saw it in a different publication. And it sounds like a great opportunity for us to reach the public, to try to recruit some volunteers, to pass out some information about taking care of trees, and to publicize our tree giveaway on Arbor Day. So we'll have some, not a lot of freebies and nothing for sale, although we could take donations at that time. So I looked into it, and there's a $50 charge, and they provide a table and 2 chairs and admission for 2 people. The show is from 8 to 4:30 or 8 to 4. They expect you, if we do go there, they expect you to be there someone to be there at your booth the whole time. And they expect you to set up before 8 o'clock. So I'm proposing that we follow up on this, because we're not at the farmer's market for quite some time. This is a different group of people who are very plant-oriented, and I think it would be a great opportunity for us to, get the word out that we do indeed have a tree board. And we are hoping to do some things with that. I know we have some display materials somewhere.
Someone is at my house.
Okay,
The
so,
flag
well,
and banner.
I think the banner that says tree board, that looks like this, is
That's at my house.
the main thing to get. Okay, so I'm willing to head this up and fill out the form and send it in, and with the check. It's the application is due Monday, I think, and they're holding a spot for us pending that check arrival. So what I'm looking for is members of the tree board who are willing to join me at this wing ding. We don't need to have everybody there all day. I've already mentioned it to Dennis, since he's a master gardener and he wasn't going to be at this meeting tonight, and he is interested in participating. But he's not an early morning person, so I need somebody that can join me at 7:30 in the morning at the high school. Even if you can't stay all day, join me there and set up, and we'll get some information out.
I wish I could, but I will be in Italy.
Oh.
Well, then I'll have, first of all, we should decide, do we want to participate in
Yeah,
this?
I move that we reimburse Betsy for the $50 she's about to send in, because I don't think we can get it through this, the comptroller
I'm
before
really
that.
not, I'm really not concerned about that.
Well,
but
I think it's good to do.
It's your
So, anyway,
participation that,
I move that we reimburse Betsy for the $50 fee for the Master Gardener Show on March 29th.
Second.
I'm not, Betsy, I think you're asking us, do we even want to do this?
Right, that's the first
before we-
question.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's implied in my same.
Right, right.
I will say, Betsy, I believe that I told you previously that I could be there at a shift with some Girl Scouts.
Wonderful.
I've since realized that I have a Girl Scout camp that weekend, so I
Oh.
cannot be there.
Oh, it's too early to camp.
I know.
I will, I can get there at 8, you know, if I can get there before I will, but I can take a 3-hour shift.
Wonderful. Well,
can talk after the
first of all,
meeting.
yeah, let's set up our shifts later, but are we agreed that we should participate in this? Any questions about what we're hoping to accomplish?
Okay, so we have the motion and the second. Did we vote?
No.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Motion approved. Next on the committee reports, unless there is anything else under education and outreach, we have Arbor Day tree giveaway.
Arbor Day. So good news, and we all need some. As of February 17th, the Arbor Foundation approved Michigan City's application for this year. So I think the materials they're on their way if they're not at City Hall already. So I will tomorrow check, because I was away all of February, so I didn't get a chance to check at City Hall in our new mail slot. So I'll check to see if that or anything else has arrived. But anyway, I'm very happy that we've been approved for that. And I'll check at City Hall for that. And they did ask then for us to publicize this, so I'll fill out their online form about the Earth Day extravaganza, because they wanted to know, what events we're having for that. And it's an estimated number of trees planted or distributed, so that's 500. And estimated number of attendees. Any guesses for how many for last year? 100, that went by our table?
Oh, at least.
Probably more like 200?
I believe we...
Do I hear 3?
I think we gave out about 100 handouts, because,
I'll say 150.
Yeah.
Okay.
easily.
All right, so now fill that out and then and put that in. And there was one other question I had with that. Nope, not coming. All right, that's all I got for Arbor Day.
That's the April 26th?
25th,
Thank you.
Friday.
And
No,
so
it would be a
Saturday.
Saturday.
Oh, you're doing it
The
on
event is Saturday.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
The one, it's at the senior center.
And that does, yes, and that does meet our requirement then for Tree City.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's what I was going to ask. Yeah,
We're
Saturday,
also gonna do May.
Saturday, April 26th is the Earth Day extravaganza at the senior center.
What are the hours? Starting,
Oh, I have noon to 4. I'll put that in there.
okay.
It's noon to 3.
Oh, okay. The other thing then I did remember is I can, because I had look at what I had drafted last year and sent to the mayor's office requesting a proclamation of Earth Day.
okay.
And that is a requirement for the Arbor Day application, for next year. But
Thank you for staying on top of that.
yes.
And we're still planning to label the trees the day before or the
thank
morning?
you for bringing
At least
that up.
earlier than that.
I have show and tell. So I've ordered these nice tree identification tags, and they're color coded. We have 5 kinds of trees we're going to get, and we have 5 colors. So in addition, I think it would be good for the recipients to have the name of the tree on there. So I'll be looking for volunteers, and maybe I'll bring some to that. Well, we're sitting there waiting for people to come by at the high school. Master Gardener Group, to start labeling these, but, you know, I'll reach out to people and see.
That's a good idea, because we can use our time that way.
Yeah.
And if we could also have the list of trees at that March 29th
Yeah.
thing, so we could start telling people what they can come and get.
Okay.
Is there a flyer? Did somebody make a flyer?
I will make a flyer on that. I just wrote that down for me to do that with the trees listed and the times and all that stuff. And then, the mayor's letter.
Mary, what time is the giveaway at the senior center?
Noon to 3.
Noon to 3?
Yeah,
Okay.
that, yeah.
But, we'll need to set up before that.
And I'll mention that the 2 tree giveaways are going to be at the Earth Day extravaganza on Saturday, April 26th. Yes, noon to 3. And also at the first farmers market for Michigan City.
Which is May 3rd,
Oh, thank you. May 3rd, Saturday, May 3rd.
and that's from 8 to 12.
8 to noon, yeah.
That's whatever we have left.
Correct.
Well, thank you for that. I will try to get you some Girl Scouts who might help label.
That would be great. Yes.
I typically attend the extravaganza on behalf of NERPC. And so in past years, I've been at a NERPC booth and not at the tree board booth.
Yes, if we
Doing-
could get a couple volunteers.
I've been doing water quality sampling. However, being at the beach, our program is not appropriate for that, so I've been exploring if we could do a small tree planting. The city parks department is agreeable to it. However, they're concerned about maintenance, so that will need to be worked out. We were under the impression that we would be in a contract with SCA for watering and maintenance. So I am still exploring that.
Great.
I will personally water your tree.
Okay. So I think if things go
I don't
through
have
with
a day
community, we could probably do a tree planting. We're just kind of still exploring that.
Sure.
When you bring these Girl Scouts, can you have them bring some cookies with them?
Yeah, well, of course, I have cookies in my car right now.
See you
Um,
after the meeting.
The 25th, are we going to do some get-together to write stuff and prepare?
Oh,
On the
I want this
25th.
done way before the 25th.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's see what we can accomplish the March
Yeah.
29th.
I will email the board and ask for people to, have a quilting bee with me to get these
All right.
labeled.
That sounds fun. Any other discussion under the Arbor Day tree giveaway? I don't believe we need any action.
Start saving your plastic bags.
Oh, yes, excellent, yeah. Save your plastic bags for the tree giveaways, because they're gonna take them out of damp pots and put, give them to people.
And I will bring numerous buckets. I
Excellent.
think I have 10 buckets.
Oh, wow, it's great.
That's a
Excellent.
lot of buckets.
Yeah. Because I'm an arborist. I need buckets.
Next up, then, is City Forester's report. Does anyone have that prepared to read in, or should I pull that up
I have,
and read it myself? I do have the City Forester's report here. Should I read that?
I think it's short enough that you can.
Okay. March 2025, Forester Monthly Report to Michigan City Tree Board. Worked on training with the Arborist Apprentice. I will say that Bea did come along with us tree tagging, and so we got to chat quite a bit, and she was a big help. Continued work on the IRA grant, attending monthly coordination meeting with SCA. Going to cancel the spring planting. I believe that we've already discussed that.
Yes.
Any questions on that additionally? Okay. Worked on tree inspections, collaborated with Vector Control to rewrite City Ordinance 102-1 and RFQ for 2025 landscape services. Michael did state that he will not be attending the meeting tonight due to a conflict. That's all that we have. Any questions? Okay. And then I believe we are all excited and eager to move on to old business, the first of which is update on IRA grant progress and inventory, presentation by Phil Graff.
All right, thank you. First thing I want to ask you all is, How much time do I have? Because this is the fun stuff. I could geek out about trees for hours here, but I want to make sure I don't go past I know it's been a long day, so you tell me how much time I have here and I'll fill it.
I would listen to all you have, but I'll ask the others.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
10
I'll
minutes,
ask the
15
others.
minutes?
Yeah, that sounds real good.
15, 20,
Easily, yeah,
10 minutes.
Everyone
20
okay with
is
that?
good.
15,
Check and we'll
20,
I'm hearing lots of numbers. What do you want me to stick to?
20, 15.
You're the president.
I would say go for 10 to
All right.
15, and then we'll ask you
We
our
can do it.
questions.
We
I'm
can
sure
do
we'll
it.
have them.
Is the laptop blocking the screen?
No.
You guys see it okay? All right. So here is the summary of the project timeline. We found that we were awarded the grant back at the end of 2023. And last April 9th, the RFP came out to the various consultants in February. The grant was awarded to us on April 9th, or the project was awarded to us on April 9th. So we began work on August 23rd, 2024 with the data collection for the tree inventory, which took 5 months and 9 days. It was completed 1 day after our internal deadline to finish. Our goal was to finish by January 31st, and we missed it by 1 day. So that was just our internal deadline, though. I think the project for everything, the deadline for everything being wrapped up, of course, is like 2027. So we're in no jeopardy of losing that. So that was when data collection was complete. Since then, we have been working on, I think I explained this before, QA/QC of the data, just getting everything cleaned up, going out in the field and picking up missing fields and making sure everything is complete, which it now is. And then combing through the data and now finding out exactly what you've got and what we're going to do with it, what we propose to do with it. And here's what we got. Now, this is the first time any of this is being seen. I have not shared this with Michael. I thought he was going to be here tonight, so this is the first time anybody has seen the data. Total amount of trees inventoried here in the city of Michigan City is 13,993. Broken down as the various categories: 9,676 street trees, 1,137 on the golf course, 739 in the cemetery, or actually 2 cemeteries. City-owned property trees, 341, and park trees, 2,100 on the nose. The number of planting spaces would be 6,930.
wow.
Now, planting spaces were not, this is important to understand, planting spaces were not collected in parks, the golf course, cemetery. That's for street trees only. So in order to find out what your stocking density is, what you do is you take 6,930 and divide that by the number of street trees, or the total number of street trees plus planting spaces. So it's 9,676 plus 6,930. So that's 16,606, right? And it would be the number of trees. Your stocking density is 57.9%. So it's actually not as low as I thought it was going to be. In other words, 60% of the places that you can have trees on the city parkways are filled with trees. Now, this number, it's important to understand this number is going to drop if everything goes as planned and the IRA funding holds steady, which we're hoping for. We'll all keep our fingers crossed. But that is because there's going to be a lot of trees removed according to this plan over the course of the next 2 years. And at that point, the stocking density comes back down, but we hope to be planting trees, which will then slowly bring it back up. And the goal would be to continue to plant trees going forward every year and get that stocking density up closer to like 80%. An 80% number is a pretty good average for the Midwestern cities your size. I've seen them as high as the mid-90s in some really, really heavily stocked communities. I've seen them much lower. Just from my windshield tour, I thought it was going to be lower than essentially 60% where you're at. So that's an important number to look at. 682 stumps on the parkways currently, or throughout the whole city in all the various categories. Here's a good number that I was really happy to see. 136 distinct species of trees are found here in Michigan City, which that is a great number. 100 qualifies for an arboretum, so you essentially qualify for an arboretum, yeah. So that's really cool. Your average tree diameter is 16 diameter inches, so that's
Big.
Good
Now,
size.
Of course, we're going to get into tree age and tree size a little bit later, because it obviously varies per species with, the growth rate of trees, but those are trees that are somewhere in like 30 to 35 year age range would be your average tree. The average height is 38 feet, the average crown spread is 26 feet, and the height to spread ratio is 1.4. So a really, like 1.9 or 2 means you've got a tree twice as tall as it is wide. We see this a lot in street trees. However, because your inventory includes a lot of open space areas, you had 2,100 park trees. Open grown trees like you see in cemeteries and golf courses tend to be more open grown. So that brings your ratio of height to spread down, and 1.4 is a really good one for city tree population. A lot of times if it's just specifically street trees and your stocking density is really, really high and you've got, very short spaces in between planting spaces, you get a lot of those forest grown type things, which are more susceptible to storm damage, wind damage, things like that. So 1.4 is a really good number as well. Now, your average tree condition, let me explain this one. We're going to, actually, I'll wait till we get to a couple slides down here. We're going to talk about tree condition. But the average tree condition is 3.16, which is a little bit below average, but not much, just a little bit. I will expand on that here shortly. And then the canopy volume numbers, those essentially mean nothing to you right now. You see these giant numbers of cubic feet. I will explain that in the last couple slides of this presentation as well. Because when I show you what that means, it'll make more sense when you can see it. All right, the diversity analysis. This is a graph of your tree diversity at the genus level. So genus means species groups. So if we look at oaks or maples, those are genus or genera in the plural. And those are species groups. So within that you have different oaks and different maples. You have red oaks and white oaks and bur oaks. Those are actual species. We'll get to that in a minute. This chart is at the genus level. What I really liked about this, and I wanted to point out as being a really positive characteristic for you guys, is the modern day BMP and urban forestry for tree species and genus diversity is what we call the 20-10-5 rule. I don't know if you've heard of that. That means in your tree population, you don't want to have any more than 20% of one family of tree, 10% of one genus of tree, or 5% of one species. So at 13,393, 10% is at 1,393 trees. You've only got 3 different genera that are exceeding that 20-10-5 rule. Now, believe me when I say, when we do projects like this, it's often that you'll see way more trees exceed that, and you don't have as wide of a span. So what this is showing us, and the next slide will too, is that the species and genus diversity in Michigan City is really good. It's honestly one of the best I've seen. I've seen some park tree inventories that were more diverse, but diversity is not as much of a problem as you would think in Michigan City.
Really?
Still
I'm
very heavily
surprised.
maple, as you can see. Very common in Northwest Indiana.
All silver maple?
And yeah, that's coming on the next slide.
Can I ask a question
But
now?
if one of those 3 are oaks, that's fantastic. So,
Yeah, happy
go
to
ahead.
see that.
Pears, does that include where pears are listed?
They're-
Are calorie pears there, or are they undesirables, or both?
They are actually listed as pear. But I've got something coming on that in
Oh, I
a
see 'em
moment
there.
too.
I see pear.
Pears in there, yeah, it's 394. It is actually, the calorie pear is below your species threshold, but we're not gonna worry about that because,
And it's not listed as an undesirable?
yeah. All right, here is the top species. Now we're gonna break down the species themselves. So silver maple is your number 1 tree. I don't know, somebody guessed that, they called that out before. At 9.75. Red maple is number 2, so the maple genus was the highest, so it should be no secret that you have 2 maples and your highest 2 species. But then as a number 3 and number 4 pole position, you've got oaks, which is really good.
Yes.
What's really important to understand about this is remember the 20-10-5 rule. 5% of any one species. You only have 3 trees that violate the 20-10-5 rule. 3 species of tree, which would be silver maple, red maple, and red oak. That's
good.
outstanding. We don't have a lot of work to do to correct the diversity
Okay,
in
I
terms of trees.
have another question.
Sure.
The parkway trees in front of my house are autumn blades maples, which my understanding is they are a hybrid of red and silver maples.
That's correct.
So how is that counted?
It actually is counted as,
Half a tree in each?
no, so Acer Fremont, it is a hybrid, but it's still its own species. It's Acer Fremoni. But if you look at the genus species name, there's an X in the middle of it, which indicates it's a hybrid. So it is actually its own species of tree. It's a hybrid, but it's still its own species.
And it's not way up there?
It's not
It's
way
like
up there.
seeing
And I would
It is-
speculate though
It's
that
not even in your top, it's not even in your top 11.
I would speculate though that many of those red maples are hybrid. Probably.
They're not, but that wouldn't be the Acer Freeman maples.
Okay,
That has its own category.
okay.
So essentially, it's less than 2.72%. I
Okay.
can come up with that number for you later,
They're
but
all
for
in my
right now, it's
neighborhood.
not. So with this chart, I was gonna just do the top 10, except Calorie Pair was the 11th. And I
Okay.
wanted you guys to see where
Thank
that was
you.
at. And then for Vice President Melowitz, I made sure that I noted at the bottom that you have 184 ailanthus trees.
Oh, I see.
I really was thinking about that before you said that tonight, because I knew somebody was gonna ask, and that accounts for 1.3%.
But there's,
Oh, wow.
that's
Not too
of
bad.
city trees and that's city trees.
That's the city-owned trees only, what you're responsible for,
Okay,
which fell into the categories of street
there's-
trees, parks, cemeteries, golf course, and city-owned properties.
but there's
So in other
plenty
words,
more.
you know, city hall, fire stations, police station, library. There was a long list of city-owned properties. Some of them were just parking lots and vacant lots and things of that nature. So what you're responsible for. So again, this is really good. You've got 3 genera and 3 species that are above your 2010 5 rule. I almost never see that. And what that means is you have to spend the next 10 to 15 years overcorrecting for that to try to get that, because the goal is not to have it now. The goal is to use your future tree plantings to get there in 20 years, 30 years, whatever our urban forestry management plan, once you guys get to go through and edit, actually says. But we don't have a lot of work to get through. so
I'm
that's
often
pretty-
promoting oaks. Perhaps I should not be promoting oaks so hard in Michigan City.
I don't think that that's the case, because maybe red oaks, because that's
That's
obviously
susceptible
over,
to-
but,
yeah.
and white oaks are getting close, but you've got a long way with some other ones, because again, bur oak, shingle oak, chinkapin oak, swamp white oak, they're not even 2.72% or higher.
Okay.
So this is good, and I'll tell you another thing to look at when I know if I had 2 hours to talk to you about this. One of the cool things that you could do is that condition ranking on the side, which is the next slide we're going to get into actually. When you could cross-check, a species that's below 5%, like we use white oak, with a condition rating below 3, that tells you that the tree here in Michigan City is growing, better than average condition. That's where you want to pull from when you go
Over
to make your
3.
species list. Below 3, actually.
Below 3.
Let's talk about that right now.
Sorry, and
Here's
I
your
know
condition
I saw
curve.
we had a question.
So every tree we looked at, all 13,393 trees were rated for condition. We use a 1 through 5 scale. 1 being a specimen tree, okay, meaning there's no defects. Very rarely see one of those in a municipal setting, so you only had, had very few of them essentially. You had 3. 2 is above average, 3 is an average tree, 4 is a below average tree, and 5 is like basically a dead or we call it dead or nearly so. All right, we use 1 through 5 because you can overlay it on a standard distribution bell curve, and then you can look at what your tree population looks like at the same time that you display that standard distribution, and you can see if it's shifted towards the right or to the left. Now, you guys, if you remember before, in a previous slide, it's 3.16, which is a little bit higher. So your
Hi.
average condition is less than average, but not a lot. Now, it's not like 3.9 or 3.7, like inching towards 4, which is below average. So it needs a little work, but that's not terrible. In a municipal setting, when you have sidewalks and curbs and driveways and everything subject to salt and pollution, it's really hard to have a municipal street tree population with in the 2s. But that's our goal. Our goal is to, over time, as we're getting rid of, imagine what's gonna happen if we get rid of 400 some odd tree removals, and then we prune some trees that have a lot of dead wood. When those are being done, we update the tree inventories, and a lot of 4s become 3s, and a lot of 3s become 2s. And we're gonna see that condition curve shift back to the left from where you see it now. That's the goal. And this is a great chart and a great metric that you can use to see how you're doing. You know, every year you're updating the inventories, you're removing bad trees, and then you go and you plant new trees. So now you're replacing, you know, trees that are 2s and 3s, or trees that are 4s and 5s with trees that are 2s and 3s. So this is a good thing to look at. And every 6 months or every year, you can go out of the GIS database and pull out your average condition rating and see how it improves. And that's really important to be able to do.
We had a question, I'm sorry, I got excited and started.
That's right. You talk about city properties that all of these trees were on. Did that include sanitary district properties?
I do believe they were in there.
Okay, because they have a lot of property. I was surprised when I came here to the city how much property the sanitary district owns all over Michigan City.
I'm almost positive they were. I can get you an answer on that before I say definitively.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the list of 6 months, obviously, because when we started, but I do believe they were in there.
Okay, thank you.
And that makes me think, I think the redevelopment commission owns a number of properties, and I wonder if they were included in city trees.
I wouldn't be able to tell you unless you gave me addresses or intersections, because the list I got from Michael when we started, I mean, there was just a lot of just empty lots at intersections.
Sure,
you know, like
sure.
9th Street and Washington Street or whatever it was, and so a lot of we didn't know the names for or what their purpose was, but.
Yeah, if you got the list from Michael Wolf, he probably included all the sanitary district properties
Yeah.
because they're using that for some storage of trees and things.
I
Are they
just
like
think-
north of the skate park?
They're all over. Some
Yeah,
of them are
I remember some
west of
redevelopment
Central
ones.
Services are off Gardena going over to Hitchcock. There's a lot of property there. The sanitary district owns beyond just Striegel
Yeah.
Pond and all
I
that.
think we got them. I think we did.
Thanks.
Just for my own confusion, and I wonder if other people might be easily confused this way. To me, it would be important to say, emphasize immediately upon showing that chart that the low numbers are better and the high numbers are worse.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
it took me about half the
Yeah.
time you were talking to figure that out.
Yeah.
I said, what?
Right, exactly. Once you get the hang of it, you get it.
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk about your age class of trees. So size and age are obviously linked with trees, but there's no magic formula that tells you that, because oak trees or a ginkgo tree is going to grow a lot slower than an autumn blaze maple tree or a pear tree or a silver maple. We like to look at it as, roughly an average is, ½ inch of diameter of growth per year. But I'm not saying that that's what all trees grow. This is what we kind of use when we're like looking at large extrapolations of, data sets this large. So it looks like here from this data that your highest size class of tree would be in the 7 to 12 inch diameter range. So we're putting those at somewhere between like 15 to 24 years old. So somewhere in the 15 to 20, 24 years ago, someone was planting a lot of trees here, which is kind of surprising actually. I would have expected to see a lot more trees. Again, this is why these projects are so fun, because the windshield tour tells you one thing, but then you look at the data, the numbers don't lie, right? I would have expected a lot more trees in that 25 to 30 or beyond. It's not as old of a tree population as I thought. So this shows you that. But the other thing that's really important to note here is the 0 to 6 inch trees. There's a lot of those too. Those are trees that are more than likely less than 12 years old. So there has been a lot of trees planted in Michigan City in the last 20 years. Surprising, but very good. And if you think about it, we're looking down the road, 20, 30 years down the road, you're going to see a lot of those shift. Not at the same rate they are now, because there'll be some natural senescence and trees that die. But the goal is to continue to plant more in a perfect world, grants stay steady and whatnot, so that we can continually keep adding to those 0 to 6 inch age class, so that we keep this very even. The ultimate goal would have it just be like flat top, straight across, right? Perfectly layered urban forest with young trees, old trees, middle-aged trees. So these are going to shift over, and we need to plant new ones, essentially. All right, these were our arborist recommendations. We're going to go way back to like an hour ago at this meeting when You guys asked about how many trees were recommended for removal. Okay, that number is, I said 400 and some odd, that was wrong. It's 845, it's the standard level. We rated 3 different levels of tree removal. Priority, which is 419, so that's the number I must have had on my mind. 845 in that middle priority range, okay? And then low priority is 674. Most of those are small trees or trees that we're recommending them for removal, but they're not necessarily right now. So that's actually a lot of trees that need to be removed. 419 removed priorities are trees that we're saying should be removed as soon as possible. And these would be the ones that your IRA grant would be funding if we could get started on it. And it would be very important because these are your high potential for risk trees. Your tree failures will come from that
Will you be
category.
forwarding this information to us or to me so I could include some of those numbers in my letter?
Yes, absolutely. What I think I would do, if it helps you, is I'll just create this whole presentation type into a PDF and I'll just email it to the whole tree board.
Wonderful.
That would be
Excellent.
fantastic.
And Michael too, because he hasn't even seen it yet.
And I'm
I'll
thinking,
give it to you guys.
poor Michael, we got it before him.
Yep.
I'm thinking at the Green Drinks presentation, a lot of this information, if we can have some of these slides, would be fantastic to share. Because a lot has been done regardless of
Yeah.
where things stand currently.
Would it be okay to include a couple of these slides on our Facebook page? Okay.
It's your day.
I won't do the
Whatever you
whole
like
thing,
with
but
it.
okay.
The other thing, well, actually, let me stop there, though.
Yeah.
To advise you, it would be fine for some of the statistics. This slide I would keep out of there,
Okay, yeah.
because that can come back and haunt you
Liability,
later.
Yeah, and that's
If-
too
Yeah, if.
much detail.
If you do
Yeah.
have, God forbid, some kind of tree accident here where there's a fatality or like a huge loss, maybe
Yeah.
personal
I
property.
hear ya.
And somebody gets a hold of that and goes,
Something
hey,
like that came
they
up very
recommended
recently.
419 trees come down as priority. How
That's
many
a
of you
good
guys
point.
take it down? You
Yeah.
say none,
Yeah.
because the grant funding fell through. I mean, it's defensible for you, you just don't want to be in court
No,
dealing with
no.
that. So I would keep some of the more sensitive stuff out there, but like
Will do.
species breakdown and age
Yeah,
class and
yeah.
condition.
Okay.
So,
Thanks.
I won't go through what all these things are, but I do want to mention one more thing. The priority prunes are really important too, because even though they're not removals, there's still some high-risk things there. Okay, there could be a large dead top of a tree, a large dead limb over somebody's driveway or home or power lines. Typically, when we do these, I like to keep those out of the set of trees that we're putting out for the contractors to bid on, say, the grant part of this. Because a lot of those are things that your in-house crews could do. I do want to have some conversation with Michael about this, because this is going to be something that we're going to need feedback from the urban forestry management plan, and how much of this work can your crew do? You know, I know 419 tree removals is probably a little bit beyond their capacity at this point, but I know that there's a crew here and they have a bucket truck and they've got a chipper, so a lot of these, you know, the priority prunes, and then like prune dead limb is one that we just put on there because that's usually like, tree has one dead limb. If you've got a crew with a bucket truck, I mean, it could take you less than 10 minutes, but they're important because they could cause just as much damage as one of these larger removals. All right, now, we'll talk, these are the last 2 slides I've got. We're gonna talk about canopy volume. Now, bear with me on the explanation of this for just a moment here, but canopy volume, why is this important? Because numbers of trees, okay, and the size classes of trees don't often equate to what your tree benefits are. Tree benefit is figured out through, you guys have heard of iTree? So iTree is a tool that was created by U.S. Forest Service and some private industry partners to quantify in hard dollars the value that your tree population provides is environmental services to the city of Michigan City and the whole surrounding community. So when all these numbers, like this, the tree height, and it's a big calculation that some really smart people figured out. You take your tree height, and your tree spread, and your canopy volume, and all these things, and it spits out numbers. Like, it saves you X amount of dollars for stormwater runoff, and X amount of dollars in energy savings. And this has been peer reviewed and researched for many years, and it's a really good tool you can use for this kind of thing. But canopy volume is important because the number of trees that you have don't always equate to tree benefit. Because you could have you could plant 1,000 trees, right? But if they're 2.5-inch caliper trees, the canopy for those 1,000 trees is not going to equal even 10 giant red oaks somewhere on the golf course or in one of the cemeteries. So that's where canopy volume comes into play. So this is your canopy volume per age class. And what it's showing us is that your 25 to 30 inch trees, which are 50 to 60 years old, again, rough number, all right, are providing you with a more benefit than any other age class tree you have.
So preserving those is just as important, if not more, than planting new
You
trees.
took the words right out of my mouth. However, it's still important to plant trees because you'll never have trees in the 25 to 30 inch diameter range
Yeah.
if you don't plant trees now.
Yeah.
But what that's showing you is that that's really where most bang for your buck is coming from now. So when you have these ordinances, or when you have a tree permitting process, because somebody wants to cut down a 25-inch white oak that we know are growing really well here in Michigan City, per our data, you have to realize that that tree is providing, the private property owner, but the entire community a lot of benefit. And we want to preserve as many of those trees as we can. So the tree preservation ordinances are important.
But the permitting process under the new ordinance does not give correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is it does not give the forester the authority to tell the property owner, no, you can't cut that tree down just because I want to keep that tree alive.
You're correct. That's
Okay.
correct. So from a decision maker standpoint, you're correct.
The
We can't do
decision
that.
still lies with the homeowner, the property owner.
That's their private property rights, and you are correct. But I think maybe to add to that is that this is where public outreach can be really important, because the average homeowner might not know what everyone here, I mean, you guys are here because you're on the tree board, because you love trees, and you guys understand the benefits. So I guess I'm preaching to the choir, so to speak here, as they say. But that's where public outreach comes in, is to try to maybe, when we're presenting at the different Arbor Day things and the different public outreach at the LaPorte Gardeners Club, is to bring numbers like this out and show statistically, this is why it's important for us to keep our trees that are that
I
size.
think also, rather than just necessarily one individual homeowner and their tree, when new developments happen, because there are a lot of new developments in Michigan City, doing that outreach and having those ordinances in place through stormwater, through whatever
Large scale
mechanism.
land clearings.
Yes,
We wanna avoid those.
because we do see those
And
happening.
a lot more effort needs to be made on the part of development to preserve the older trees, because as you point out, Phil, one huge tree that's on their property can do far more good for the environment than planting God knows how many dozens of smaller sticks on that property after the.
And sometimes if they retain those trees, that can serve as a sound barrier that's required, so they don't then have to put in a sound wall. So it can be a cost benefit for the
There's a lot of-
developer.
Sure, there's a lot of benefits to
If
that.
they
If
know.
they just take the time to think it through and put a little effort into planning around that tree, yes.
There is an event in Michigan City, I think it's the Builders Association or something like that, in January, and Master Gardeners has presented at that, and that might be an opportunity for us to do some education too.
Next January.
It's too late for this January, that's for sure. Yeah.
You're planning
That's a
way
great
ahead
idea.
here, Laura.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, though.
As we're mentioning it, I think of it, so.
Okay, the last slide I'm going to show here is another one that I find pretty interesting. Is this actually shows your canopy volume by age class, and it shows 2 lines, and it shows where they cross. And what this is saying briefly here, because we've gone way over here with the questions and whatnot, try to keep it to 10 to 15 minutes. It shows us that here again, after your 25 to 30 inch diameter trees, you get to your 31 to 36 inch diameter trees, and that's when the lines cross, which starts to show you as trees get older, they actually have less canopy, because that's when they start to go through what we call natural senescence, right? They do what's called self-pruning, and they're starting to drop limbs, and they're starting to thin their canopies, and we're getting less value out of the 37 to 42 and the over 42 inch trees than you think. And a lot of those are the ones that eventually fall into those removal categories because they're aging and they become high risk. So as important as all those benefits are, it's also important to minimize risk. So slides like this help me convey that it's all really about the balance of trying to balance environmental benefits with risk, and knowing where that line crosses is always a good thing. So when you do have to remove that 42-inch silver maple because it's, 33% dead, it's beyond its most useful part of its urban life, so it's necessary to do.
I get it, I'm about to turn 42. and I get it.
It does kind of mimic human nature, I will admit that. The last thing I want to mention to you guys is the urban forestry management plan is forthcoming. It is, I'll say that it's not in its final stages, but the first draft is in its final stages. I think we're going to have it to Michael by Friday. And then it kind of goes to you guys to look over and give you your feedback and massage it and do whatever you want. And then we'll hopefully get it in final form by next month, maybe in time for some of your public outreach events. But in that, all this data will be there too, but also, every one of those charts and stats that I showed you guys for age class and condition curve and diversity is broken down per category. So you can this is the full data we're looking at for the city of Michigan City. You can go and see all those same charts, the series of 6 charts for just the street trees, just the parks, just the cemeteries, just the golf courses, and just the city-owned property. So you'll be able to look in and see, well, what's the number 1 species in our parks? What's the number 1 species in the golf course? Where are all of our poor condition pears and ailanthus? So it's way too much data to try to present tonight, but you can comb through it, and it's pretty interesting because there's, you'll be surprised to see a lot of it. But a lot of numbers, a lot of stuff for you to comb over eventually. And that'll all be in urban forestry management plan soon.
When will this all be on a database that people can just look?
The actual tree inventory itself, it already is.
Okay.
But when you say people just look, right now, it's on a GIS database that's owned by the city. It's the person with the keys to that car, so to speak, is someone in the water
Sanitary
district, Tony
Basil.
Basil. Yeah, Tony Basil. He's your GIS coordinator, essentially. Mike has access to it. We want to limit who has access to the actual GIS version of this tree inventory because we want to make sure that the data doesn't get corrupted. However, the city should decide to disseminate actual tree data is really up to them. I mean, I can advise people that if you ever want to have any kind of public interface of the tree data, put it on your city website, that you strip down the sensitive information so it doesn't show people what the condition of their tree is and what the arborist recommendation, because you can get into some serious problems liability-wise with that. I know I've worked with municipal entities that put their tree inventory on their website. So if you wanted to go on and see what tree was in front of your house, you could do it. It'll show you the species and the size and the address, and that's about it. You don't want people to say, hey, the arborist recommended my tree for removal 3 years ago and it's still here. You can get yourself into some trouble doing that. But for people to see in general, the public, because of the information age and what GIS can do, the possibilities are essentially endless on who can actually use this. We can make read-only versions of it, and there's a lot of things we can do.
I would really like to see if we can make it happen, working with Michael and with Tony. I would like to see if we could convert some of this information to show kind of a by ward, maybe not ward, but by neighborhood comparison. This is where we need to plant trees. And kind of use that to target our outreach. I don't know if that'll be a possibility, but I think it's important through the grant as it was written that we do a lot of community engagement as the plan is developed, that we do a lot of work, and especially if the tree planting is in limbo, maybe we can focus some efforts on that. But I'd like to see input from community members in different neighborhoods on, where should we prioritize tree planting in Michigan City?
All your open plant spaces are mapped out in the GIS.
Yeah.
And if you
I'd love
overlay
to
your
see
word map
that.
with it,
Yeah.
this is one of the greatest things about GIS is if you overlay your word map on top, so you go into your data and you query out your planting spaces, and then that's all that'll be displayed on your map. And then you overlay your ward map on it, and then you draw a polygon around that ward, and then suss those out. You could have a list
Yeah.
of every planting space in the first ward.
Because
second ward,
I
third
think
ward.
another goal in my mind is to increase tree equity, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
So the neighborhoods that don't have a lot of trees should be prioritized
Yeah.
for planting.
The number I think you'd want to look at then, I think you're on the right track, but to crank it up one more notch, is you do stocking density per ward.
Okay,
So planting spaces will tell you one thing, but some wards might be smaller than other ones, and some of them won't have, maybe they just don't have the potential for more trees because there's overhead power wires, or there's, maybe too narrow parkways. So the real number you would want to do is the stocking density per ward.
Okay.
And all that is very, very easy to do on GIS. And if Tony is not available to help you with that stuff, we always are. We can figure that out, no problem.
Yeah, Tony should be able to do that. He's done that with sewer and with water and each board to get total numbers.
great.
This was
Thank you, Phil.
wonderful to see, and I learned so much, and really grateful for all the work.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you very much.
Yep, this is very exciting, and regardless of the status of the grant right now, I think what we've accomplished is incredible and going to be so useful going forward, so I thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you guys for awarding us the project and letting us do it for you.
Maybe I'm just a
This is
geek.
great
I like
information.
to see your data.
You are kidding.
I know.
Phil, may I ask a question? Are we also able to see an overlay of population density against some of that as well? I'm just kind of curious in regards to like some of the most impact across the community in regards to like either lack of tree canopy or if areas are more dense than others. So I'm just kind of curious. I'm also a data person, so.
Yeah, that might be a question to ask Tony Basil if we have that in the GIS. I'm not sure, Nancy, do you know if you've seen a population density in an GIS layer? Yeah,
I know it exists, easily
I'm sure
available.
does. NERC has all the population data for everything.
Yeah,
too.
it's census, yeah, it should
Yeah,
be.
should be
That's
available.
exactly how I would have answered that question, is somewhere, if somebody has that population density data,
You
it
have
could all be
pictures?
woven into the tree data. That's, again,
Did
it's
you
the
take
beauty of
pictures?
GIS.
Yeah.
That's why we do these inventories using GIS as a platform for doing it. A lot of people
Well,
use
might
just
help
tree inventory
get
specific
somebody else's
software,
attention.
but then you can't use it for other things. And when you have GIS and you've got different layers on there, where is your power lines? Where are your, subterranean utilities? Where are your, if you want to like say, show me every tree within 10 feet of a stop sign, like you can do anything you want with it.
And all of this is contingent, the plannable space is all contingent on calling 811 and whatnot.
You can go the number of trees that are in yards of people with minivans compared to sedans, if you have that
That
data.
would be interesting. Okay, well, Phil, I know we told you to keep it to 10 minutes, and then we asked you 20 minutes of questions. I would like to hear the 2-hour presentation someday, but that's for another day.
Well, you know what, you could read it, because when the forestry management plan comes out, you'll have all this
Fantastic.
on steroids, essentially. This was the pared down version.
Yeah, that's great.
Can we quickly move on to community before
Yes.
we're out of time?
Yes, thank you, Phil. On Community, I have shared, Community did receive an application from Michigan City Tree Board for trees this spring, as well as a application from
The Manjushri Hermitage.
Yes. Both of those applications were reviewed and I think are quite favorable. I think for I recused myself from reviewing those two. I think for the Michigan City application, there was a comment that they would like to see more information on communication with the schools' maintenance departments, to just have some assurance that the trees would be maintained. But I know that Betsy and myself have both said we will help to water if it comes to that.
Well, the application was only for 17 trees.
Yes.
And that included 2 trees adjacent to your community garden. But that's only, there were 4, I contacted all the elementary schools and the middle schools, and there were 4 schools that were interested in having trees planted. And We kept it small because we weren't sure what the, how difficult it would be to maintain. But the 4 schools that did express an interest were very enthusiastic. So I understand that those trees may or may not be forthcoming.
I am working on it every day. It consumes my every day.
Well, we were hoping to plant in late April, but
Where it stands with NERC, I think I've mentioned a little, we are seeking an advance reimbursement from U.S. Forest Service in order to order the trees. I understand that NERC does not want me to place a $30,000 order
Right.
without an assurance that it will get paid. So I am working feverishly to try to get that through. I'm meeting with NERC staff tomorrow to try to continue to get it through. I do believe that we will have trees for you if that goes through.
I'm just wondering if I should contact those schools now to say, you may not get your trees, or, obviously there needs to be more communication about maintenance, but would it be kind of a moot point to make an arrangement with 4 different maintenance people where we may or may not have trees?
Personally, I think it would be good to have those conversations, because I think in the long run, we will be able to help them get those trees. You and I have discussed some other grant opportunities that we can pursue that are more
NIPSCO has a
private.
grant program.
So we have discussed, and perhaps we should vote on whether we can move forward on that. I think it would be worthwhile to have those conversations in one way or another. Better to have them up front.
Hey, Nancy, do you know, I'm sorry, but do you know if Sodexo is still doing the Michigan City Area Schools maintenance?
I have no idea.
I believe so.
Because I was on a board with them some years ago for their maintenance committee. I know it's really not dealing with multiple school maintenance, it's just one company, Sodexo. They're in their building across from Ames Field.
I believe they are for at least the school hard
Building
infrastructure.
itself.
I'm not sure
Yeah,
for the grounds, if that is.
The clean and then the stuff
Yeah.
inside, correct.
But I'm not sure for the grounds, if that is Michigan City employees or contracted
Well, I
out.
guess what bothers me a little bit, it sounds like seasonal employees who mow the grass get a veto power over whether there can be a tree put in front of a school. And I have a hard time with that.
Should be the principal that decides.
Well, I've been in contact with the principals, and some principals have delegated this to interested staff. And I told them that we have to have somebody there on the day of the planting, at least 2 people associated with the school on the day of the planting, to show us where the water is, et cetera. But it may not be possible to know at this point who's going to be working the outside of the school over the summer.
I can help with those conversations. I will say, when I worked with Cool Spring Elementary to do a planting, the maintenance staff that I believe was Michigan City employees became very enthusiastic about helping. I still helped to water over the summer. I was prepared
Sure.
for that. But they were very enthusiastic about having the trees planted. I think it's just reaching out and having those conversations. I don't know who has the veto power. I don't know
Well,
how
it's-
those decisions are made,
Yeah,
but
planting trees is not always on the top of the list for the principals.
mhm.
Of those 8 schools, or more than 8 schools, 10 schools that I contacted, 6 of them didn't even respond.
Mhm.
So it's not that easy to get their attention.
Yeah, it might be a longer term.
I think the safest bet is if you can get a teacher or teachers committed to the project.
Right.
That's the safest, because then you're gonna know it's carried out.
Sure.
And you're also gonna get your student involvement that way.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. That's the whole point,
Yeah.
is to
Yeah.
get children interested in trees and kind of adopting these trees.
I agree with that suggestion. In my experience of dealing with schools and with tree plantings is you need
It's
to
a
have
teacher.
one teacher who's devoted to the project, who really
Mm-hmm.
cares about trees, who will bird dog it through the administration and through the maintenance and everything.
That's
Yes,
the way to have it.
Absolutely.
I'm a retired teacher, so I've seen projects succeed and projects fail.
Okay.
And if it's owned by a teacher and the students are excited about it.
They're going to-
Somebody to
It's
own
gonna,
it,
it's gonna
exactly,
happen.
yes.
Well,
Yeah.
if we don't get the community trees, and if we were able to get the NIPSCO trees, or the NIPSCO funding for trees, one or the other, that would put this project about a month later. So we'd be planting in May instead of April. But my commitment is, if I have to pay for some of these trees myself, I will. If I plant one tree at one school, it's going to happen this year. Well, middle of the night.
I would ask, I don't know if this requires a vote or not, but I believe that we are intending, and I will help with this, to write a NiSource environmental action
I
grant.
I will get started on that, and
I'll help.
you can help
Yeah.
me.
Is everyone on board with that? Do we need to vote, or?
No, I don't
Yeah,
think so.
Okay.
there's no
So we'll
cost
pursue
involved,
that.
it's just a
And it
matter
will
of time.
basically be the same proposal that was prepared for Community, just as a backup in case Community,
Okay.
okay?
All right, I'll be working on that.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You-
Thanks, Betsy.
All right, any new business?
What about re-voting on the partner with sustainability?
Do we really need to do that?
I don't know.
Well, we didn't have a quorum.
So we're going ahead with this event with them.
Well, then just make a motion, second it, and vote.
Okay, great.
Quickly.
Let's do
I
it.
I'm
make that
sorry.
motion.
I'll second.
I have
Okay,
an appointment, we
all-
gotta get going.
All opposed, or all in favor?
Aye.
All
Thank you,
opposed?
Betsy.
Okay. Let's see.
Chair to-
We do have a note here to review ordinance 102-34, tree board duties and responsibilities. I believe that we need to do this. I'm sorry, I know we're going late. I would like to propose that we propose a sort of a workshop or a meeting, publicly held before or after the next tree board meeting, to invite city staff, tree board members, open to the public, forester,
Council people.
because it seems to me that this is kind of at a stalemate. I don't know if we have any updates on that, but
Is that the ordinance that redefines
how
the duties of the tree
the
board?
duties of the tree board.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
I
how
can
we
tell
relate
you
to-
that I had a conversation with the representative of the mayor about that, and they have no interest in doing anything about it. I was told that they have no interest in pursuing it. I asked for the reasoning behind that, and I did not receive a response.
Okay.
And that's where it
You
is.
sent that correspondence? Was that via email or a one-on-one conversation? That you
Both.
sent that correspondence? Both.
Well, I would suggest, I mean, I looked at the.
And I also explained, excuse me,
That's all right.
Betsy, I also explained how the ordinance, how it came about, what it did and did not do, but that's where it went, so.
Okay.
Well, as of yesterday, what's on the website is the old description of the tree board, which is totally out of date. And I think, I think we as a group should define who we are,
I
rather
agree.
than inviting people to tell us who we are.
Well, another question is, do we need the mayor's permission to do this? We don't. As I understand the way the government process here works, we are appointees of the mayor, or some of us are, but we have the authority. I mean, I think we can draft anything we want to draft, and as long as if we have a council person who is willing to carry that to the council and make that proposal to the council, then it can be considered by the council. It would be great to have the mayor's blessing, of course, but if the mayor is not going to bless it, then that leaves us with a choice.
I'd like to have some,
It would be nice to know why
Yeah.
the mayor is
yeah,
not.
I'd like to have some communication just between city staff and the tree board to make sure that we're all on the same team here, right? I think that the ordinance does need to be changed, but I think we should just give it, if it has become contentious, my opinion would be,
I don't know if it's contentious or not. I think that's a
I-
big
I-
assumption. I
If I
think,
could assert something here, I think it's just low priority for
Yeah,
the mayor's
exactly.
office, considering everything they have to
the
do.
mayor's got way too many
Right.
other things.
And
going
you as a board, you can go ahead and look at
Okay.
your ordinance and make changes that you deem would make it easier for you to operate.
Okay.
And then you, as a, board, and coordinate with your forester, of course, and then that becomes a revised ordinance. It goes to the city attorney, they take a look at it. Once they sign off on it, then, Dr. Cora would present that to the city council, and we're the
Okay.
ones that vote on it.
Okay.
Okay.
So can we all just,
And-
I don't know that it needs to be a vote, but can we just agree that over the next 3 weeks before our next meeting, we'll all just take a close look at that?
Yeah, why don't we just
And-
plan on putting it on the agenda for the next meeting? That we will have a discussion about the proposed ordinance as it is, as it was passed by this board, and seeking input. Anybody that has any thoughts about it, we'll have an open discussion
Yeah,
about it.
we'll just have
and then
that
go from
problem.
there.
Maybe over the next 3 weeks, we email and get some of that discussion
Yeah,
done
yeah.
through email, so
Just
that it's
everyone
not,
take a look at it.
so we don't have to
and
work
be
everything
prepared.
out at a meeting like
But
this.
as you look at it, I
I'll
think-
give you a warning about that. Those tagged on emails can constitute a quorum,
Yeah.
and then you'll be out of open door law. You will not
Right,
be compliant with
right.
the open door law.
Okay.
That's why I recommended doing a workshop like before your next meeting.
Okay.
And all that has to do, it just has to be published to the public so that the people know it's taking place,
Okay.
okay?
Well, I would suggest that one of us write, a sample of, or at least get started in what we want this to
Well,
say.
you have already written the ordinance. We've passed the-
Michael has
It's
proposed
written
one and then
already.
it's
Oh,
been,
okay, I didn't, I
and
don't
then you've
have
sent
that.
your
maybe I
additional
do.
thoughts on it. So it has been sent, so maybe I will take a look and.
The board, yeah, I mean, I revised it, we finalized it, the board voted on it to approve it to be presented to the mayor's office, which is what I did.
You need to present it to the city council.
Right, so our first step was we're gonna see if the mayor was supportive of it. The mayor is not supportive of it. Now, if we wanna continue to
I
go
wouldn't- I
forward,
wouldn't say she's not supportive of it, it's just
Low
not a high
priority.
priority
They
for
don't-
her.
yeah.
It's a low priority, that's all.
Okay.
And I think it's important to understand what the ordinance, what the proposal does and does not do. Michael seemed to have the impression that, he was gonna be working for us and all this other crap, which is not true. It's not what the ordinance proposes.
Well, maybe you
So
could take another look at what you wrote and see if there's anything in there that's a sticking point.
I don't think there is. To me, the ordinance is perfect as I
Well,
wrote
could you send it out to the rest of us? Because I don't remember where in my pile of things it went to.
Great idea, and then we can move on.
Okay. That's that.
But I have enough to do without coming to another workshop.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're this far along, then that sounds like a great plan. But
Just get a council member responsible.
once you got what you want, it'll go to a city attorney who will take
Okay.
a look at it. If it's okay, then it's fine to come to the
Okay.
city council.
Was it a city attorney objection?
I also sent it to the city attorney, who sent it back and said the mayor's office has no interest in this. And that was the only comment.
Well, you
So
have-
it does need to go through the
You
attorney?
have Dr. Cora, okay,
Yeah.
okay, you have Dr. Cora to see it through the channels it needs to go through.
I have a
Okay.
question about Dr. Cora. Is Dr. Cora, he's not our liaison with the council anymore, you are?
No,
right?
he is, he's your voting member.
Oh, he is, okay.
He's your voting member, okay? I'm a liaison.
And you're the
I don't
liaison.
vote,
Yeah.
okay?
He's a
And he now votes.
He votes, I don't, okay?
But that's new.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
the
it's-
February meeting, right?
I'm here, yeah.
No,
that's-
that Dr. Corey is a voting member.
I thought he was
No.
always.
No,
No.
he was not.
liaison.
Oh, he's the liaison?
Yeah.
He was
He
the
was
liaison
last year.
previously.
No issue, you have two liaisons now.
Okay.
Because he,
Okay.
yeah, he can't
So
be a
he-
member of the board.
I'm sorry,
'cause we
I
already have a
misunderstood.
So
citizen.
that's okay, so he's a voting member?
No, he's not.
You have two liaisons.
That's what
He's
we were
not.
told at the last meeting, I
Well,
believe, is
have you
that
been told anything official?
nothing official. Michael shared that he was under the impression that, I believe it was Michael that shared that, I'm not sure, that going forward, Dr. Cora would be a voting member and you would be our liaison. There was some concern at the last meeting that
If
would,
Dr. Cora was never a voting member, then he's, will not become a
Okay.
voting member. And that was a confusion with our new president, Tracy Tillman, okay?
okay, okay.
And we only have one liaison at a time with the council, right? We wouldn't have two liaisons with the
You have
council.
two now.
Oh, we do have two.
Yeah, you have two now.
Okay.
Okay.
Of course, any council member is
And
open
it's-
to come
And you
to
serve,
any meeting.
you serve at the pleasure of the president of the city council.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think it's very important that we do have that liaison, so that we stay in good communication.
Well, sure, of course. Who serves at the pleasure of the city council president? The liaisons?
The liaisons,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Wow, this is great that we have all this attention in the city council,
Yes, it is. It's fantastic.
I think.
Any other new business? Any comments from board members?
You know, I was going to ask this whole clarification, so I'm glad that got brought up. Thanks.
Yeah, and, you know, it's Tracy being new and, you know, just trying to keep things moving along quickly. and-
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm really interested in trees, so.
Great, we're very happy you're here.
Very happy to
I'm
be
very
here.
happy you're here.
Yes, thank you for being here. Can we get Nancy one of the tree board things?
I just gave her
Oh,
one.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Any comments from board members? Hearing none, any comments from the public?
I would like to just make a really brief
Yes,
announcement.
please.
This is regarding Green Drinks, Northwest Indiana Green Drinks, which is happening tomorrow evening, Thursday, and this is March 6th, 6:30 PM. We are very excited about our fourth year to present on pollinator gardens, and I'm sure everybody here is interested. You're interested in big plants, so I hope you're interested in small plants also. And the title of the presentation is Ready, Set, Go Native. And we're going to have Katie Hobgood and M. Racine from Save the Dunes. And they're going to be talking about the effort that they've put in to establish a pollinator garden at Barker House, which is the headquarters for Save the Dunes. Also, Save the Dunes is the group that put out the pollinator guide a couple years ago, which is available for free download online. There's also hard copies of that. And we are going to be receiving our acknowledgement from the National Wildlife Federation. All of Northwest Indiana was certified as a certified habitat for native birds and bees and bugs and butterflies.
Great.
And so we're going to have a formal presentation of that. We're also kicking off for Michigan City a campaign. We're going to try to get Michigan City certified as a pollinator
Habitat.
habitat.
Great.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's
And
fantastic.
so tomorrow night, that's a Zoom, by
That's a
Zoom.
Zoom meeting, yeah. So you can watch on Save the Dunes Facebook Live.
Okay.
You can get it there. Or if you want the link, send an email to that's EM, at savedunes.org. So that's EM. I don't know if it's for Emily or what it stands for, but at savedunes.org. And you can get that. And anybody that's on Facebook, you can get that Zoom link on the event that's been set up on the Northwest Indiana Green Drinks page.
Great.
That's the easiest way to get it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about this. This is our first year. There's a lot of interest in Michigan City. We're going for the certification in town. So hopefully we get a lot of people to get certified, because I know a lot of people already have gardens that could be certified. And then getting other people to plant more natives in their yards and schools and places of worship. Yes, definitely.
Oh, yay.
Yes, you can.
I'd like to point out that native flowering trees are great for pollinators.
Absolutely.
So some of
Our
your
oaks?
pollinator meadows don't bloom until summer, but native pollinator trees are blooming in the spring.
Yeah.
Like willows and maples, sometimes they'll just be clouds of bees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
My linden is swarmed with
Lindas,
bees.
yeah.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Yes?
Tim Winter, 310 East Cool Spring. Thank you all for serving. It's great to see the board. Thank you.
Great
thank
to see
thank
you.
Well, thank
Thanks
you
for coming.
For the years that you served. Which was pretty hard service.
Thank you for your support.
Yes, welcome. Any other public comment? Okay, do I have, our next meeting is April 2nd at 5:30 right here. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So
I
moved.
so move.
Move, second,
Second.
yep. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, good night, guys. Sorry
Thank
it was
you
so
all.
late.